recording will live on our website. The recording will live on our website, so you're welcome to go back and visit. It'll probably also be embedded in our YouTube. So thank you for so much for your support. If you have any questions today, this is going to be a more interactive webinar presentation than maybe the last two have been. So you're welcome to do two things. So if you've been with us before, you are welcome to put your comments in the general chat, just if, you know, your feelings of just how great this workshop is, this webinar is, you're welcome to put that in the chat. But if you have a specific question and you feel that you don't have the time to get it answered, or it hasn't been answered during the presentation, just put it in the Q&A, and NAMI staff members Jamie and Nova and myself will try to make sure that we elevate that question so that the presenters today can answer it. But again, this is going to be an interactive website, or webinar, so you'll have an opportunity to share. So definitely utilize the chat. NAMI staff will be answering you for the questions that we can answer, and then we'll elevate the questions that our presenters are more equipped to answer. So with that, I will just very quickly, I will share my screen to bring up our agenda for today, our presenters. So again, I'm going to do a quick little introduction, and then we will move right into our presentation. And then there will be a Q&A if there are still more questions following the presentation. Also, please note, there will be a poll. So I recognize that some of you may need to leave, or you may need to tend to other matters. But if you're able to stay to the end, there is a poll that I would very much like you to answer or to fill out, because it's ultimately going to help NAMI Metro be able to find out what we did right, what we could have improved on, and what we can do when we do this again. So thank you in advance for staying to the end to fill out that webinar, or to fill out that survey. But for now, what I want to do is introduce our speakers and presenters for today. So I will, oopsie daisy. I think I stopped sharing my screen. I hope I did. So I will do my introduction, and then I will just turn it right over to our presenters. So Rabbi Sachs-Kohen has recently completed the clergy leadership program with the Institute for Jewish Spirituality, an 18-month fellowship bringing together early Hasidic wisdom, mindfulness, meditation, yoga, chant, and prayer. The fellowship has renewed her rabbinate and her own spiritual life in remarkable ways. Rabbi Sachs-Kohen will be joined by Cantorial intern Becky Mann and Claudia Cameron, a clinical social worker. And without further ado, I will turn it over to our presenters today, who will bring greetings and then begin the presentation.
Thank you so much, Claudia. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us this morning. We're going to begin this session by singing what we call in Jewish music a nigun. A nigun, in the simplest terms, just means a wordless melody. It has several functions, one of which being it's a meditative quality to it, where we sing this song that doesn't have any words, just syllables, either yai dai dai, yai lai lai, nai nai nai, choose your own syllables. And by repeating this over and over again, the song loops in a way that creates sort of a mantra like we'd hear in a Hindu chant or in any other sort of meditation. Nigunim also help us set up melodies. So when we sing these wordless melodies, we're preparing to eventually add words to them, but only after we get in a state of spiritual connectedness with God and with ourselves. So we join together this morning from our separate homes, but together in this nigun.
We began with a nigun that wordless song that our Cantorial intern at Baltimore Hebrew Congregation, my congregation, shared with us, and then into the words from the Song of Songs in Hebrew, Ani Yeshena v'libi er. The heart was asleep. I was asleep, and then my dear one knocked at my door. We understand this in the context of our sacred text to mean that we came to awareness, we awoke in some way. The voice of God, perhaps, or in the context of what we are sharing this morning with you, our own neshama, our own souls, our dear ones, that aspect of ourselves that when we are alive to it, when we are awake to it, speaks to us in some way. We're going to come back to that song, to that tune at the end of our presentation. But now I want to invite Claudia Cameron, another member of my congregation and a licensed therapist, to share the practice, the framework of internal family systems. And then we will have a conversation about that, which I want to invite you to join into through the chat, through the Q&A as well.
I'm delighted this morning to be able to talk to you about internal family systems that was developed by Richard Schwartz. And I'll refer to it from now on as IFS. So as clergy, counselors, and frontline office, it's extremely important to take care of ourselves as well as helping others. So hopefully some familiarity with this IFS model can clarify ways of providing compassion and care, both for ourselves and for others. So a way to understand IFS is to use this analogy of an orchestra. I've always found this helpful. So picture a conductor being absent and the tuba player taking over the score. Certainly, you can imagine a cacophony of sounds from the tuba player. Now, equally, imagine the conductor reappearing and developing a relationship with each of the musicians and their instruments. With this conductor and leadership, you would anticipate a more well-led orchestra. So the orchestra leader is our self-energy or soul. And as the following slide will show, we know we're being self-led when there are any one of these 8 components of, and they all begin with C words: compassion, curiosity, calm, clarity, and the next slide, confidence, courage, creativity, and connectedness. The core energy, like the conductor, needs to understand all the parts. We have many different parts, and they are all welcome. Perhaps you can think of some of your own parts, such as silly, sad, anxious, caretaker, organizer. The goal is to achieve balance and harmony within ourselves. Overall, the role of these parts is to protect us. And what are they protecting us from? They're protecting us from much younger child parts that were hurt as we grew up and have been buried away and are known as exiles. So the goal today is not to make anyone an IFS therapy. Rather, it is to become more aware of ourselves as we guide others who seek NAMI services. Additionally, as we talk to congregants who need help, we can be compassionate and open-hearted. For some people, it brings great relief not to be seen as the depressed person or the angry person or the anxious person. Instead, we can respond to congregants who have a need to express themselves in certain ways, that it is only a part of them that is responding in this way. And now Rabbi and I would like to have a conversation. And again, we invite the two of you, anybody to join in with questions. I guess the slide is.
Sorry, I was muted there.
Okay.
Yeah, so Claudia, I think what we're thinking about together this morning in this workshop is the idea that in some ways, our spiritual lives and the Jewish practices that support those spiritual lives that we employ in our congregation come together in meaning with the therapeutic practice of IFS, that we can understand that these are two different lenses by which we are seeing human beings, through the spiritual lens or through the mental health lens, but really what we're seeing is human beings. And so we talk about in Jewish life, the soul has any number of names. One of them is neshama, and neshama in Hebrew relates to breath, and it relates to the kind of core energy or core self that you talk about with IFS. Here we talk in this slide that self is in everyone, says Richard Schwartz. It can't be damaged. It knows how to heal. And in most religious traditions, we understand that there is an aspect of ourselves given by God, given at our creation, however we understand that, that is in each of us and that knows how to heal. So where do you see the connections, Claudia, between neshama and IFS?
I feel that the IFS model, and one of the reasons I gravitated towards it, is that it's a transformative model. It is actually a spiritual model. And it very easily, as I started learning about core self-energy, it translated to me about neshama and soul. And I love the idea that as I work with clients and as I think clergy can work with congregants, we have a deep belief in the IFS community about the power of our ability, our own ability to heal ourselves. Sometimes we need a guide, whether it's in a spiritual sense of a rabbi or minister or priest, and sometimes a therapist, or sometimes both. And there is, to me, such a deep connection with all of this.
And so you raise this this task that we as spiritual leaders have. I'm mindful that spiritual leaders and staff of congregations are our audience, even though we can't see you. We know you're out there. We know we're talking to you. And so this idea that human beings are created in such a way that we do have the potential to heal ourselves when in community and with the help of our spiritual leaders, our therapists, our physicians, sometimes other modalities like medication and learning, that one of the ways that we see these practices intersecting is that a spiritual practice can support the human being and support the neshama, that core self, in orchestrating that healing.
And I might add that, when I went through the C's, one of the things is of how important it is to keep our hearts open to others and to remain compassionate. And so often, the weights that everyone carries, these heavier parts, can take away from that sense of connectiveness and compassion and open-heartedness. So even as Becky starts us off with the singing, I personally just felt my heart opening, that the music allowed and the chanting to penetrate, because I deeply believe it's also visceral, how we experience so much of this.
it's not just talking. It's not just talk therapy, although talk therapy is so important. It is a physical embodied practice to lead to healing, to lead to health and wholeness.
Absolutely.
And when we open our hearts, Clarissa, can we go back to those C slides? Compassion and curiosity and calm and clarity. We can feel as we move through that meditative practice, the one that we began with and the ones that we will be sharing with you as we continue the webinar, we can feel ourselves coming into that core energy. And that doesn't mean that the challenges that we hold, the mental health challenges, the physical health challenges, all of the external and internal things that move us out of our core energy, it doesn't mean that those go away necessarily, but in supporting the neshama, the soul, the core energy, we allow ourselves to open a little bit more into these C qualities of the self.
That are always there. I want to emphasize they're always there from birth onwards. They are there. And so often, like I said, when I was explaining, people feel that they are the depressed person. They are not connected with the neshama. And that is so important. So as they learn, to manage these different parts, the depression, the anxiousness, then the neshama can be there to help support them with that.
Claudia, it occurs to me to ask, do you think there's any human being who doesn't have these 8 qualities of C?
I'm not the founder of this. The founder, Rick Schwartz, deeply believes that, and I certainly believe that too. And it's there. It's there.
And I would say that from a spiritual, religious perspective, a Jewish perspective, which I think in many ways translates to other religious traditions as well, every human being created B'Tselem Elohim, as we say in our tradition, in the image of God, is created with these elements of humanity. And part of our task is to lift them up and to allow them to be the way that we move through the world. So Claudia, I think that you have a meditation for us. Would you like to close the slides? Thank you, Clarissa.
Thank you. And yes, I would love to start with this meditation. As I do this, please feel comfortable doing what you like to do. For some people, literally closing their eyes really helps them to go more deeply inward. For others, keeping their eyes open is important too. So just take a moment to quiet yourself and to go inside. Sit up straight, become aware of your breathing, and gradually deepen your breath. Wiggle your body a bit until it settles down. Feel the weight of your legs and let them relax. Feel the weight of your arms and let them relax. Let your shoulders be heavy and your jaw slacken. Breathe in cool white mist and breathe out gray fog that may help you relax and become still. Breathe in white mist, breathe out gray fog, in and out, in and out. This is by Rumi. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes, an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they are a crowd of sorrows. Violently sweep your house, empty of its furniture, and still treat each guests honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. Dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door, laughing, and invite them in. Be grateful for whatever comes, because each has been sent right from beyond. Now take a moment and see who the guests are in your house. Notice them one by one and make themselves known to you. You may recognize them as a thought, a feeling, a sensation, or around your body, a distraction, a memory. As you invite each of them in, give them a seat at some sort of table or design a circle. It could be an intimate kitchen table or a large dining room table, conference table, a campfire, or anything else your heart desires. Place yourself at the head of this table so that you can make contact with each of your guests as they take a seat. Welcome them here. They are welcome, big or small, feisty or sullen, clear or shadowy. See how it feels for you to be at the head of the table, acknowledging them all. When you're ready, gradually bring yourself back into the room. Thank you.
Thank you, Claudia. I want to acknowledge that we are giving you little tastes of this work, and that we hope that you appreciate the sort of framing of what we're talking about, but we also don't expect that this is as full an exploration as we might do if we had a lot of time together. Having said that, one of the things that in our congregation we have been doing is a monthly meditation offering along the lines of what Becky began with, the chant, some meditation, some poetry, and some Torah learning, because we really do believe that giving our congregation the opportunity to have that embodied experience that all of those spiritual practices lead to ultimately creates better mental health and opportunity for mental health within the congregation and among we who are leading in the congregation. And so we want to share with you essentially what we do for this monthly meditation opportunity in brief. The meditation that we will offer our congregation is a longer service, but we want to give you a taste of how that flows today. come into this moment with perhaps our hearts awakened a bit, with our souls, our neshama coming to the fore, coming into leadership as we invite the soul to do. In that family system model, we ask our souls, we invite our souls to be at the head of the table. And I reflect on the way that in our Jewish tradition, we read the text from the Torah, that God called Moses to be the leader of the Jewish people, to step up to leadership and taking all of the myriad people who came out of Egypt with him into a space of openness one day in a promised land. And Moses's response at the very beginning when God asks him to lead is, I can't do that. I'm not able to lead. I am flawed. I am disabled in some way. Moses says, I have a speech impediment, or I'm slow of speech, or I just don't know what to say. The Hebrew there in the Torah is a little unclear, but we know that Moses, taking that place of leadership, doesn't immediately step into knowing how to lead. And I think as we move through this journey of mental health and of life, we often feel that our neshama doesn't know how to lead or isn't invited to lead in the way that we might hope it would be. And so what does Moses do in Torah? Moses invites his other parts, external in the way the Torah is told, but perhaps internal in the way that we understand IFS. Moses asks God to be with him in his leading of the people. Moses asks Caleb and Joshua to be with him in the leading of the people. Moses invites Jethro, Yitro in the Hebrew, to help him understand how to lead the people. And I think in the way that we understand neshama, each of us has within us a Moses. Each of us has within us a soul, a leader, who is our own leader. We call that leader by its own name. My leader isn't called Moses. My leader is called Elissa, as is my Caleb and my Joshua and my Jethro, and even perhaps if we could say such a thing, my God is also called Elissa, because all of these are the parts within me that when I am awakened, when I am centered and whole, show me that I know how to be courageous and creative and compassionate in the world, that all of those elements of core self are right there within me. We look to our sacred texts, whatever those sacred texts are. For us, Torah in the Jewish community, for Christians, Torah, Old Testament, New Testament, for those in the Muslim community, Quran, and all of the sacred texts, all of the sacred teachings, in some way, are leading us to a place of opened heart, of awakened spirit, of the ability to heal from within, but also to do that with the help and support of the community and with those around us. And so as we move into another moment of meditation, this time I want to invite you to call on your inner Moses, your inner leader, your inner core self, to invite that core self to lead, your neshama, your soul. And again, as I said earlier in Hebrew, neshama is related to breath. The Creator breathed into us in the beginning of the story of creation in Genesis, life. And each of us has within us that neshama, that breath. And in a very concrete way, when we pay attention to our breath, we are inviting the soul, the neshama, to step forward and to lead us. So this meditation will be a breathing meditation. I am aware that, as Claudia said, some of us are comfortable with eyes closed and some of us prefer to keep eyes open. And if you're keeping eyes open, you can find a gentle focus, something that isn't you looking specifically at something, but just letting your eyes be gently focused. However you are sitting or standing, allow your spine to have its natural shape. Put your hands on your lap if that is comfortable, or by your sides. Listen now to the world around you. Perhaps you're hearing wind, or a lawnmower, or birds chirping, or cars driving by. Whatever is there, just take a moment to pay attention to the sound. And let yourself, as much as you can, be open to the sounds rather than getting drawn into them. It's not time to try to change anything, but simply to notice how they rise, these sounds, and change and fall away again. Now, if you feel ready to move your attention to your breath, wherever the sensation of breathing is strongest for you, maybe that's in your nose or in your lips, your throat. Maybe you can feel where the breath enters your lungs. It doesn't really matter where, but just focus your attention wherever you feel your breath. And try to bring a sense of curiosity to wherever that is. You don't have to change it and you don't have to know it. Just be curious about it. Notice how the muscles of your chest and back may stretch on the in-breath and relax on the out-breath. How your shoulders may rise and fall with each breath. Notice if you have any places of tightness or achiness. Just noticing. Become aware of the quality of your breath. Is it fast? Is it slow? Is it warm or cool? Is it shallow? Is it smooth? Does it fall in and out easily, or take some work on your part? And as I move into silence now for a moment, you may notice that your mind wanders. Don't criticize if you can help it. Don't judge or engage with whatever comes up, with whatever arises for you. Simply accept and say, now I'm thinking. And then try to return to the breath and pay attention there. A few moments now of silence. We bring this meditation to a close, and I invite you to hear what you hear again, to feel what you feel again. And we share again the poem by Rumi, The Guest House.
This, being human, is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they are a crowd of sorrows. Who violently sweep your house, empty of its furniture. Still, treat each guest honorably. He may be wearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice. Meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whatever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond.
Thank you, Becky, and thank you, Claudia. We want to invite a conversation as much as that is possible across the webinar format. So if you have thoughts or questions, we would love to have that conversation.
Of course, I'm muted. And just as a reminder, well, two things. So you can put it in the chat, which I have seen your comments. And by the way, I just wanted to share, lots of folks enjoy your singing, Becky, have enjoyed the conversation between you, Rabbi Sachs-Kohen, and you, Claudia, just have enjoyed this presentation. And so if you have any questions for our presenters, feel free at this moment to put them in the chat. Another thank you, another magnificent
Thank you.
meditation, wonderful meditation. But if you have any questions, feel free, you can put them in the Q&A. You're welcome to put them in the chat as well. And while we're waiting, I do have a question for actually the three of you, and you can kind of answer it in any way you choose. So what would you tell someone who is trying to be more proactive about engaging the congregants in mental health conversations? Some recognizing that this is an interfaith audience that we've had today. So some folks may not be of the Jewish faith, but we do have some Christians who are listening. We do have some Muslim faith individuals who are listening. What advice would you all tell them in the different ways that they engage? What would you tell them as a way to encourage them to begin having these conversations using their own sacred text, using their own musical or songs as a way of practicing their religious practice? What advice would you give them?
So I want to offer that my beginning advice is just try. You know, we started doing this meditation service, and I had no expectation about whether anyone would come or be willing to engage the question of whole health in the ways that we're sharing with you today. We've tweaked it, we've shared it in different ways, and I think that in my understanding of what we're doing as religious people in the world, we have to be brave, and we have to look at human beings not as separate individual parts, not the IFS parts maybe, but you know, I am not a different person when I go to work than when I go to church, than when I go to the gym. I am the same person at all of those moments. And so as spiritual leaders, as religious leaders, we have to be brave and be able to talk to people about all of the aspects of their lives.
Yes, absolutely.
And I would add that the spiritual leaders, when they lead with their courage and their compassion and their open-heartedness, that will be felt by parishioners or congregants who need that kind of caring. And then, you know, the knowledge that so much clergy have about where resources are, like NAMI, in order to help people to get to the places they might need. It may start off with a very significant conversation with a clergy leader, and then with their knowledge, they will know whether that needs to be referred onward, either to a therapist, to alert family, whatever it may be. But that's why I feel it's so important for clergy, and I guess frontline office is often involved with this too, of being sort of aware of their gifts in order to connect with others and help them along the way.
And I would just add that normalizing the conversation around mental health as clergy is such an important thing. Language, our words mean so much, and if our congregants are not hearing us talk about the importance of whole health, as Rabbi Sachs-Kohen said, then we're not able to let them know that that's something that is important to take care of. So normalizing the conversation is at the forefront of all of this.
Thank you so much.
Testing will begin.
Hold on. So they're testing the fire alarm system in my building. So hopefully that wasn't too distracting. I really thought I got past it this time. But so I do have two other questions, and they're kind of in the same family. And even I still invite you to ask a few more questions if you feel so inclined. Those of you who are listening, and certainly put things in the Q&A. But another question that came to us was, how would you connect people with mental health practitioners in the community if they needed it? And I guess that's specifically to you, Rabbi.
Sure.
Well, actually, yeah, but specifically
Sure.
to you.
Well, Becky, I should say, is currently in school. She is a student Cantorial intern, so she hasn't yet been working in a congregation in the same way. So I will take the question. I and my colleagues in the congregation, the cantor, the other rabbi, we all have a list of resources that we share on a regular basis with members of the congregation. As Claudia said, it may start with a significant conversation, and often that's in a time of fellowship. After our services, we share desserts and coffee and stand around in the lobby when we can do that in real life, which we're hoping to get back to very soon. And a congregant will share a challenge that they're having, or say, or I might understand that they are struggling with something. And at that point, it's my job to connect them to someone who has much deeper knowledge of mental health care than I myself have. And so it might be that I think this person could benefit from individual counseling. I might send them to Claudia, in fact, or it might be that I think that they actually need to be calling 911 and that they need emergency help. But whatever that is, I think that we can be the conduit. And certainly NAMI as well is another resource that we would lead our members to. Did you want to add anything, Becky? You don't have yet a lot of experience in congregations, but you're learning.
No, I think I agree with everything you said.
And I would say that list, of really having that resource, and often, I would imagine clergy know at least one person who might be able to help you build up more of a list. I remember, and I was very moved once by a rabbi in another denomination from mine who really wanted to interview clinicians, because he had a good sense of what a good clinician for his congregation might be. And so that also is a dialogue that can happen between clergy and clinicians as you develop a list.
100%. So two things for us, and I do see the chat, and Pastor Elissa Connors, who is going to lead our final presentation for the series. She's in the chat here. Thank you, Pastor Connors, for joining us today. I did want to just kind of bookend your comments by saying one of the reasons why we started this faith conference in the first place, it's a series now because we're virtual, was simply because we knew that clinicians or that faith leaders stood in this very sweet spot, which is congregants trust them with their spiritual life. And because they trust them with their spiritual life, they often, the faith leaders are a substitute, or at least a proxy in many cases, for a professional in any capacity, including mental health professional. And so a lot of times congregants will share, just because they're close with their faith leader, will share great information, or they'll share information about themselves, sometimes when they have just come from a crisis or about to go into a crisis, or they're in a crisis at the moment. And so I love what you said about having the resources at hand, because one of the things that we do is we have this thing we call a faith leader toolkit. And that toolkit is essentially a list of really great resources. And we spend a lot of time updating it, so it's relevant. But it has anything from sample sermons that you can share from the dais there, to down to conversations you can have with your congregations who on like a monthly basis or a quarterly basis, however, as it relates to engaging with the mental health, just the conversation about mental health and making it okay to talk about mental health in the first place. And so you're absolutely right. Sometimes you just have to start sometimes with just start the conversation and then get good resources, because you don't need to be subject matter experts. You may not have the resources to have a Claudia on staff, but you could fellowship with a Baltimore Hebrew congregation and you guys could work together. Pastor Connor said in the comment, we really do need to do more fellowshipping, have more fellowshipping opportunities where we can partner together. I assume you were meaning, Pastor Connors, as faith leaders in general and congregations in general, because while we might believe different and while we might worship differently, there's still this through line of spirituality and faith and ways that we each want to engage with our congregants and support them. So I really appreciate your comments, Pastor Connors. And I think the last thing that I want to add that I've seen, yes, Pastor Connors is just lighting up the chat. She's really energized by your presentation. One of the things that came to us, which is a great question, which is, could you share when and how your monthly meditations take place? And yeah, just in case folks want to join you.
Sure, absolutely. And I just want to clarify, Clarissa, that I wish we had Claudia Cameron on staff for our congregation. She is, that would be amazing. We should maybe talk about that, Claudia. But Claudia is just a member of the congregation who is presenting with us this morning out of the goodness of her soul. So our monthly meditation is a Monday evening when we could be in person. It was in the congregation and had musical leadership, not only by our cantors, but also by in-person musicians, which we're really hoping when we can be back in person, we're going to do again. And now it is offered virtually. We do it in a Zoom on Monday evenings, and you can come to baltimorehebrew.org and find the information about it, and it will say there where you can get the Zoom link that you could join. We have the next one coming up next week, Becky, right? On Monday.
Yes, on the 24th.
On the 24th. And, this is an open invitation. We would love to have you come and participate in that service with us. That would be wonderful.
That's awesome. I really appreciate you for sharing that information, and hopefully we can get some takers from our audience this afternoon. Thank you so much, Rabbi Sachs-Kohen, Becky Mann, and Claudia Cameron for presenting to us today. I really appreciate it. At this time, if you guys if you have any questions or any further, you want to continue the dialogue, I'm happy to share. Well, how can folks get in touch with you outside of just getting in touch with Baltimore Hebrew Congregation?
I would say the easiest way is just to go to baltimorehebrew.org. You'll find my email address, and I can connect you with Becky and with Claudia if that's who you'd like to be connected to. Becky,
Perfect.
I don't think are you on our website, your email?
I don't believe my email is, but again, if you reach out, I'm happy to be connected.
Great.
Perfect. Well, we put the website in the chat, and certainly folks are putting their emails in the chat so that you guys can engage. So I'll make that connection. I'll make sure you get that connection. But really quickly, we are about at our time, and I do still very much want to launch the poll. So thank you for all of you who have stayed. In 1 second, you will get this poll.